Hey guys, how's it going? I'm the Duke of Italy, your favorite lo-fi music YouTuber with the grainiest background ever, and I've been thinking a little bit before I get into the content of this video on whether or not to continue using this webcam. It's provided this really grainy footage since I got it, and it hasn't really been performing like I wanted it to, and I realized as I did my vlog when I went up to Kentucky that my camcorder has really good footage, so I think this is the last video we're going to use with this webcam here, but I think the grain in some instances adds a little bit of charm to the area, but I don't think it always works. So that's the housekeeping out of the way. I don't really want to keep you guys on that. Today, we are covering the final episode of the Blackgaze chart. And gosh, I don't even know how many albums deep I am. Like, my first video ever on the subject was 16, and then this is like another 30 for this chart, so and minus like a few outliers, it's probably like 45 total Blackgaze albums. And Blackgaze is a pretty tiny little niche genre, and as you can tell, not all of these Blackgaze or not that have actually been covered in these Blackgaze videos have been good. And so this might be the last time I talk about Blackgaze this much in depth. It'll show up on a black metal chart that I might cover in the future. It might show up on a shoegaze chart that I cover in the future. It is certainly not something I could see myself doing a whole nother chart of, because doing two, I think that's plenty. It's not like shoegaze, which has spanned an extra decade and a half, or 2 decades rather. It's not like math rock, which stretched into so many different genres. But that was a really exhausting chart, so I don't know if I'm going to cover something that deep anyways. And the shoegaze chart, even though we're almost done with the My Bloody Valentine section, I'll be finishing that up in a couple weeks' time. I actually have 2 other entire sections to go for that, so there's so much more music for me to cover on this channel. I also got some other charts in the mix after, of course, our October, November, December, and January content coming up, because as I did last year, I'm going to be doing the same thing this year pretty much, but a little bit different and a little more organized and a little less exhausting. But today's part, we reached the depressing stuff last time, so I also meant to get this video out a few days earlier, so that's all that out of the side. Let's talk about Blackgaze for real, for potentially the last time. And today we are specifically covering DSBM influenced Blackgaze. I don't want to say the name that it gave it here, but I'm titling this video Neck Yourself, because I think YouTube won't kill me if I say neck yourself. I can't be sure, to be completely honest with you guys. But if you can't tell from that title, it's like that. And this is the most interesting part, for sure, because the influences on these specific little albums here are pretty unique, because DSBM is more unique than its bigger brother, normal black metal, I guess. Normal black metal can get stale pretty easy. In DSBM, all you need to do to not be stale is pull from any other album and you're going to have something to pick from. It's not like other black metal where, like, if you just add symphonics, it's not going to make it that much more interesting. So I came into this with high hopes. I thought since it got this depressing, I'd be really into it. But of course, we have some controversial bands today, because this first one is Ghostbath with their album Moon Lover. I'll probably be providing an alternative cover, but it's the woman with the moon crescent on her face. And this is a pretty iconic album, before the huge controversies were that much of a thing, it seemed to have something going for it. But one of the controversies, musically speaking, because I've covered some sketchy projects, and I'm going to cover more sketchy projects, there's only one real thing that I care about when I review this stuff in terms of reviewing is musical quality. And if the sketchiness gets too deep into the musical quality, like if I hear like Horst Wessel Lied sampled in a black metal song and it's like an NSBM project, I'm going to be sketched out. But if it's like bands like Forest, you can't really tell, because it might be because I don't speak Russian. But here's a band that speaks nothing at all on this record. Moon Lover is infamous for having no lyrics, not no vocals, but no lyrics. And it's always hard to tell in these projects if they say lyrics or not. And some people will claim that lyrics don't even matter in black metal, or it's adjacent genres. But then what's even the point of titling these songs here? Because is it even a melodic instrument anymore for having your voice being screams and no words? Because there are plenty of songs out there that have nonsense words, but no words, and it's just ah the whole time, and a screamed ah at that. And I don't know how common that is in black metal, to be perfectly honest with you guys, because there are so many bands less popular than Ghostbath that have probably done the same thing, and there's a good chance I've loved their albums, and I didn't really know. But that does pull away from the quality just a little bit on this project. But what really matters beyond that are the riffs, the songwriting, all that stuff. And a lot of people love to compare this to Sunbather because this was the album that was supposed to be up to Sunbather when it dropped. It was supposed to be the album that was like, whoa, it's like another Sunbather. But the post-rock influences are just like how Death Heaven does it, and that is the biggest point of comparison. The song Happy House, though, I find to be nothing like Death Heaven. It's really Ghostbath's own thing here. So you've got a 50-50 split of additional content from the post-rock stuff and the DSBM stuff. Is it always a perfect thing? Certainly not. There are some songs on here that are kind of lacking in riffs. I think the acoustic bits are fine, but they don't add a ton. The vocals certainly bog it down in terms of lyrical content, but I don't really have a problem with the vocals as they are. So I give this album a good, but for any of you guys out there, Ghostbath did drop an album just last year, and I remember listening to it. It has metalcore influences, and metalcore is not a genre I love, but at the same time, I did love that record. So if you want to check it out, totally go for it. If you're not offended by the fact that they claim to be from China when they weren't, even though I don't remember them actually claiming to be from China. They just kind of had a Chinese album cover, which, appropriation or not, that's your call. I just know we listen to much worse stuff. Speaking of, this next band, Aryan Art. I will never ever be able to pronounce this album, and it's a little hard to find, but if you look up Aryan Art on Rate Your Music, go to their 2009 record, click on a link to that, you'll be able to find it. But this is, I'm 99% sure, is a NSBM project here, which I'm not going to say I'm happy to see. But the fact that it reached Blackgaze is kind of hilarious, because people talk about the most true cult, vampiric black metal that oftentimes is NS influenced. And now we've got the opposite of that, but it's still NS. And I'm not talking about like Fanisk, because like Fanisk, that's outsider in the first place. But seeing a Blackgaze influencer album, because like I don't know if this is necessarily Blackgaze on its own here, BNS is kind of hilarious. And this is slow moving, raw, atmospheric black metal, and the type of tone it has certainly does point towards Blackgaze in sections. And it's a huge wash of sound of a record. It's very isolated, and it is a highly atmospheric record. Listening to this while you're driving or on a walk sounds like a very pleasant experience. But when you dive into it on its own, you are going to see that it's pretty one-dimensional. It does not go too far in any interesting direction, and the riffs are not like, well, they're not Burzum, so they're not the best Atmo black riffs you can get, or they're not Druth, or whoever you want to say. I do think this would be a better release if it was shorter, because a lot of these songs are pretty lengthy, and a lot of these tracks are unnecessary. I give this an okay right now, but if you want to check it out, that's your deal. Speaking of controversy, we have the band Velvet Cocoon with this one album that I'm not going to be able to pronounce. It's not in English. The letters are romance letters, I think. English letters, that are used in several other languages. It's Pa'a Opal Poere PR33. I don't know what that means at all. But this is another controversial band because apparently they've stolen music. Apparently they've lied about their location a bunch. Apparently they've lied about a lot of things. But I think it's worse than Ghostbath to actually steal music. But that aside, this is one of the most interesting projects we're going to be talking about today. First of all, I have to disqualify it, actually. I haven't disqualified anything so far. Even an NSBM project, which is like probably not really Blackgaze. But this is definitely not Blackgaze. It honestly feels pretty post-metal, and it feels blackened in nature. Like, the attitude of it is blackened, but the riffs, not really. It's kind of sludgy, kind of drone metal. It reminds me a bit of Menace Ruin, but less blackened. I mean, if you look at this thing, what is this title and what is this cover? Like, I don't know what this means at all. It's a pirate ship, but it sounds crazy. It literally sounds like you're at the bottom of the ocean. It's got this cool, deep and droney bass guitar. It's one of the most actively bass guitar influenced records that I've seen in black metal history. Super huge amounts of bass guitar, and it is so deep. It's a really repetitive record, but it really helps being monotonous like this because it influences the weight on you. It's like Thou in that regard, where it's just the more it gets slower and deeper and more crushing, it just puts you into a pulp. It does occasionally have DSBM tendencies, but I'm not going to call this a DSBM record. I think if you play this at a black metal festival, I think everyone would love it. But at the same time, it's like not Blackgaze. So I'm actually going to give it a great. I think this is an awesome album. Did Velvet Cocoon actually make it? I have no freaking idea. And next is an album we covered weeks ago on the Shoegaze chart. This is an Autumn for Crippled Children with their album Lost. The harshest, most black metal, Blackgaze album I've ever heard. It's amazing. Vocals are amazing. Everything about this band is amazing, except of course their last couple of albums. I thought their last album was really solid, but the album before that, not as much. But I do have to say that their album, Try Not to Destroy Everything You Love, with its heavy use of synthesizers in a way that's really interesting, banger album. Totally different from Lost here, but at the same time, totally worth checking out. But it's kind of funny because this is actually one of the best projects on this whole chart. Maybe the best project on this whole chart. It's up there with Woods of Desolation. It's up there with an album we're about to talk about. It's up there with anything else here. I really should make a Topsters of this whole chart and show you what the real cream of the crop in terms of Blackgaze is. But yeah, it's certainly great. And next is an old friend, Austers, To Lay Like Old Ashes. This is a band that might actually be dropping an album this year. I was hoping they'd drop it before I did this review. But it's okay, guys. Take your time. It's only been like 10 years. Definitely no rush. Definitely nothing we're waiting on. Definitely not looking to follow up one of the most landmark Blackgaze records of all time. So this is very oppressive, depressing, DSBM-influenced Blackgaze, DSBM vocals in particular. They're the very pained howls, not quite silencer tier, but it's adjacent. But it's also decently progressive and it has these huge post-rock style climaxes, which are really awesome. There are some clean vocals on this record, but they're done in a way that doesn't impede on the feeling of the rest of it, which is the only thing I can actually ask for when it comes to clean vocals on any blackened record. And we got to talk about Coma 2. It's the same exact guitar loop over and over, and it's at one point it's got some effects placed on it, and then it's taken off, and then it's put back on again. And it's like 2 riffs, and it's 23 minutes long. I don't hate it. It's too long, yeah. It could have been like half that length, and I'd be like, super cool. It's not the Burzum synth track on Philosophem, because that track is tonally just the best thing ever. So it really hypnotizes you. This is not a track that does the same. It does have some thundery effects here and there. I don't think it's the highlight of the record for sure. I'm going to be a little generous and say that this album is still great. Coma 2 is like easily the worst track, And this doesn't have an oppressively raw atmosphere to it, but I do still like it. I even love it. All these songs are fantastic, and I really hope Austere drops a 3rd album, or 4. I don't know how many albums they are deep at this point, but I need something beyond this one. And next is the band Drearyness from Italy with My Mind Is Weak to Forget. And this is a long Blackgaze project, and that already, look at this cover. Do you think you're gonna like this? Well, I didn't like it. It's not very good. And there's a female vocalist here, which all the reviews I've seen doesn't like this record because of the vocals. And I think if you think they're going to be male vocals, you're not going to like it. Because I was trying to imagine, if that was a guy, it'd be a little goofy. But because I can tell it's a woman's voice, I'm not mad at it because it sounds like a woman. Which, if you like silencer, then you can handle a lot of vocals. Some of the riffs are decent. They're played in a way that is kind of memorable-ish. They feel catchy, which is not very common in black metal. But the sound overall is incredibly stale. Nothing in the production really helps it. There was an album I talked about a long time ago called The Elk by Thran and on the first Blackgaze chart that had a problem of being not lo-fi enough and yet too lo-fi at the same time. It was just poorly produced. And that is the same thing here. It's just nothing sounds that good. The drums sound fake. The guitars sound brittle and really flat. The bass is just there. There are clean vocals on this record that sound pretty twee, like not totally great, but at the same time it's like got an awkwardness that I kind of like, so that's a bonus for this album. Yeah, the drums are by far the weakest part, besides feeling super fake, a lot like Angelic Process, except for Angelic Process it works because that whole thing is like industrial tinged. Here they feel fake and they're so sluggish. They play less than what is needed, and that is so rare for me. It's like I never feel any solos or any tom fills or anything. It's just this sluggish piece of work. So this album gets a poor. It's boring. It's really boring. Multiple listens, you're not really gonna get much else out of it. It's just a tedious listen. And next we're getting the band Maria Abyssal with Passagem para o Além Abismo. This is a 33-minute long Brazilian DSBM EP, but it's like Blackgaze tinged, and you can't find it anywhere. But you can find the individual songs. So I, your hero, stitched them all together on my own time, which I don't have to do very often because it's frustrating and stupid, and it feels kind of like the band doesn't care if anyone listens to it. So I stitched them together through YouTube links and listened to them all in a row. So I cannot be confirmed about a production value, not that I would be sure it was good to begin with. But what you do get is one of the worst synthesizer additions to any album I've heard ever. It's so cheesy. It's so bizarre. It adds literally nothing. And also, the production's never great either. It's beyond muddy. You can't hear that much of anything. And it's not even in a way that's raw and cold and atmospheric. It's just bad. Vocals are sometimes pretty good. That's really all I can give a compliment to them for. But it feels super melodramatic and cheesy. The song Solidão is actually good for the most of it. It's got a really wide variety of mix of riffing styles, and that was something I really enjoyed. I mean, it wasn't entirely perfect, but like for the bulk of it, it was solid. So if you guys check out a song, check out Solidão. The last song on this album, though, is a cover, and it's just not on YouTube. It's nowhere to be found, so to be honest, I couldn't find it, but it's a cover, so you don't really need to find it anyways. I find covers like not necessary for like the actual material of the album unless you have something to add to it that provides more than like an idea of what you might do. For demos, covers are great. For live shows, they're great. I don't think you need them 99% of albums out there. Yeah, I give this thing a poor. What are you doing with a 33-minute long EP anyways? But also, honestly, does this thing even exist? Like, it's on Rate Your Music, but it feels not even real. Like, there's a chance I don't even have a cover up right now. And if I don't, my bad. Not really, though, because I can't find it anywhere. And next, we get the band Hypothermia with the album Gratower. Gosh, my writing is rough. But this is just a 2-track EP, and I'm actually going to disqualify it because even though Hypothermia is a DSBM band, and that's for the most part, that's enough for me here. This isn't really a DSBM project. It's just kind of a post-rock project with some scream vocals. And I'm thinking, like, I know there's a Blackgaze attitude, but the main thing is, like, it's shoegaze black metal. So where's the interesting, like, guitar tones? And I realized, I'm like, oh, they're not really here. So this very rarely dips into black metal territory, except for the vocals being harsh for the most part. Very, very post-rock. But the vocals are absolutely manic and howling, and they honestly give me the creeps. They're really, really solid vocals. And the first track is heavy and repetitive and also very long. I believe it's like 17 minutes, but I think it's pretty effective. And the second track is just 6 minutes in length. And with this release, I was hoping that the second track would be like an introduction to the more Blackgaze stuff, and even then I would have not DQ'd this here. And I was hoping it would have some kind of really logical progression into some huge climax. But it really kind of just does the same thing as the first track, but it's written a bit differently. So for that alone, I'm giving this thing a good. What's here is solid. It's just what's not here would have been better, which I hope that makes sense. I feel kind of fun and smart saying something like that. And next is a band that needs more recognition in the scene, to be completely honest with you guys. They're on charts, and the real Blackgaze heads out there are really into this band. But this is Sundevoured Earth's EP, I Wish I Would Never Wake Up. I'm going to talk a little bit after all this is done about albums that should be brought up more often in Blackgaze charts, because there are other albums out there. But right now we're talking about Sundevoured Earth, a band that is slept on a bit. So this band is so Have a Nice Life influenced, which is only a good thing. Minor bits of industrial and post-industrial that sound just phenomenal. And when it's not black metal, it really dips into this really nice slowcore sound. And it's really a cool idea of combining slowcore and black metal. And I don't know if I've seen that before. But those are two genres that are distinctly sad when done correctly. So, it only makes sense. Also, the track list is very confusing here. I followed the track list that was on Rate Your Music, even though on Bandcamp it's different and switched around. But I found the progression of this, even though the songs kind of clipped a little bit and felt like they were supposed to go into each other a different way, I did still enjoy them a lot. Some of the stuff is really abrasive and works well in that way, but some of it lines up with normal shoegaze actually rather well. But bands more like Whir for being that crushingly depressive. But as a whole project is very cold and very isolated, and it's really a take of Blackgaze that is not seen enough. More active emotions, less cult. You can kind of do this post-rock thing if you do it right, like Sundevoured Earth does. And the song Get Rid of This Mess is a banger and a phenomenal addition to the track list, and it kind of ties it all together. And I gotta give this thing a great. So what are my thoughts for this chart as a whole? I am happy on one hand for all these lesser known bands getting referenced here when they definitely needed the recognition. They're not covered enough, and I think they do a very solid job for the most part. Like bands like Sleep White Winter, or Numenorian, or Alrakis, or Cold Body Radiation, which is a band that I still think about. You've got all these bands on here that are really nice to include. On the other hand, a lot of the essential picks, I as much as you need them here, I feel like you can definitely include some more of those band stuff, because a lot of times people have a second Woods of Desolation record, which I think is totally worth checking out. Autumn for Crippled Children has another one. Clouds Collide is worth mentioning every Blackgaze chart. And Death Heaven has more than one Blackgaze album, and it's totally worth mentioning those as well. And Alcest, they have albums past the first two that are good, and even the demo, you can talk about that as well. But there is one band that absolutely must be on Blackgaze charts from this date on, and probably years ago on, because in 2019 a new band hit the scene for being easily the second most popular Blackgaze band. And my Blackgaze chart's a little old, and that's why this band isn't on there. This band is called Sadness, and even though I haven't heard this band's first album, I know the creator of the project is also behind the incredible avant-garde atmospheric black metal project Tra, which is one of the best bands of the year for dropping banger after banger. So, some more recognition of that band, Sadness at least, would be appreciated on any future charts if any of you guys out there are making them. I don't know if anyone's condensing all of my ideas into one project, because I would do a Journey type project, start on Death Heaven, then you can go the depressive route and go to Ghost Bath if you feel like it. And there are other bands to check out. Botanist has a rich discography. There are other bands that I have not yet listened to, but I have them on a big list, but I'll get to them and probably bring them up at some point. I might do one final Blackgaze video where I just say, here are all the Blackgaze albums that I recommend, but I don't really know. That sounds like something I don't want to do. Maybe I'd recommend the ones outside of these videos, but we shall see. But that's about it. What do you guys think of this chart? Did you like it? Did you despise these albums? Do you hate Blackgaze in general? If so, why are you here, buddy? But I hope you enjoy the content at least, because I love making it for you guys. So that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'd appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Comments, questions, concerns down below. What do you want me to cover next time? And anything else I can do for you guys, just let me know. Discord's down below. Please join the Discord. Social medias as well. That's about it. Have a good day. Bye.